In this video today, we are talking about ultra-processed food. And in particular, we're going to dive into, does it cause gut issues? So does ultra-processed food impact the gut? Have you ever had some food and felt pretty bad in the morning, for example? Well, that's maybe because it's the food and where it comes from and what type of food you're eating. It plays a lot of roles in our body and it can impact a lot of things. So in the hustle and bustle of modern life, convenience usually takes precedent over thinking things through when it comes to our food choices. So ultra-processed food does a lot of harm than good. So mass-produced ultra-processed foods have become a guaranteed staple in many households and offering quick fixes for hunger pains and cravings as well. We will soon find out that it doesn't just impact the gut itself, but also other things as well. So extending broadly and beyond just the gut into the rest of our bodies. We are what we eat. And also there's an abbreviation for this kind of a diet. It's called the SAD diet, the Standard American Diet. So for example, taking into account British people. So more than half of the typical British daily diet is made up of ultra-processed foods. That's more than any other country in Europe. And I would wager the USA is even worse. So the foods that we have there are made using an industrialized process. So what does that actually mean? So this industrialized process includes splitting whole foods into oils, fats, and sugars, and then recombining them. But they often tend to be sold ready-made, low in nutrients and fiber, and packed with additives to enhance palatability and shelf life. So sometimes scientists attribute the harmful effects of these foods to their addictive nature and poor nutritional profile. Others emphasize the deleterious impact on industrial processing itself. So we're going to be talking about how it impacts the gut in this video. If you like this kind of stuff, if you like medicine and lifestyle, I'm a medical doctor, family medicine doctor, smash the like button and let's get into it. So what's the evidence behind all of this? So there's a recent study actually done, which you may have come across in various different media platforms. So mass-produced products such as ready meals, sugary breakfasts, cereals, and chocolate bars are linked to 32 damaging health outcomes. It's getting pretty clear that ultra-processed food, there's a strong association between the consumption of it and a myriad of adverse health outcomes. Diabetes, cancer, heart disease, mental health disorders. The toll of indulging in these products is staggering. So it can even lead to premature death. And this is absolutely not good. So we are choosing to replace our healthy diets with this kind of stuff instead of this kind of stuff. So healthier options, please, for everybody. And these weren't just small studies. So these were done by academics in Australia. This was published in the BMJ, the British Medical Journal. And it wasn't just 10 people, but rather it was nearly 10 million people. So these people were divided into groups based on intake of ultra-processed food. And those who ate the most were found to be at a 21% greater risk of dying young and 50% greater risk of dying from heart disease. So these are very, very dramatic results. The study also impacts mental health. It showed mental health impact. So the more you ate, the more it was linked to a 22% greater risk of depression, 50% greater risk of anxiety, and poor sleep. Experts believe that this is because the food may cause systemic inflammation in the body, and then it disrupts the gut microbiome. So how do we talk about the gut microbiome in this instance? Well, let's talk about it. What happens to the gut specifically when this sort of food is introduced to it? Ultra-processed food has a profound impact on the gut microbiome. Gut microbiome is a complex ecosystem of microorganisms that inhabits the digestive tract. And what we are introducing is refined sugars, unhealthy fats, additives, preservatives, and lack of nutrients and fiber. So what happens? You disrupt the gut microbiome. That's the first thing that happens. It messes up the diversity of the gut, so you have more bad ones than good ones. This is something called dysbiosis. This can cause many various health issues. Then what happens? You have an increased amount of inflammation. It damages the intestinal lining. It impairs absorption, and then it spreads to the rest of the body. So it extends beyond the gut itself. It weakens the immune system, and this is potentially responsible for a lot of the autoimmune things that we have going on. Altered hormone regulation, so certain components of ultra-processed foods such as artificial sweeteners and additives, they can interfere with hormone signaling, which contributes to a metabolic kind of a picture, insulin's resistance and all of that. And then on top of that, you have a reduced fiber intake. So ultra-processed food is terrible in that sense. We don't eat nearly enough fiber. Please check our other videos about fiber. So consumption of ultra-processed foods, the consequences are huge and they can be very, very problematic. And they proliferate into various health problems. So focus on the opposite of what I was talking about in this video. Focus on a diet rich in fiber, rich in non-processed foods. Another thing to speak about is this guy right here. Who is this guy? Carlos Augusto Montero. So this is the guy that often coined what ultra-processed food actually is. He devised a classification of how processed a certain food is. Look at these quotes by him. Look how scary this ultra-processed food actually is. There's actually word that we should implement some sort of a tobacco-style restriction on ultra-processed food, because sooner or later we're going to realize what's going on. What classification he's devised was the NOVA classification. Group 1 is essentially unprocessed or minimally processed foods. So they are edible parts of plants and animals along with algae, fungi, and water. So this is your frozen fruits and vegetables, grains, legumes, fresh meat, eggs, milk, natural spices. Then you have the processed culinary ingredients. This is where we press, refine, grind, and drying. So seeds and nuts, fruits, salt, sugar, vinegar, starches, honey, syrups. Then we move on to group 3, which we enter the wrong territory. So these are processed foods. Not all processed foods are bad, but this is where we come into baking, boiling, canning, bottling, non-alcoholic fermentation. So examples of this include cheese, for example, canned vegetables, salted nuts. And then group 4 is the ultra-processed food. This is what we are talking about. This is the very, very harmful group, and we know what all this is. We spoke about it. So please like and subscribe for more. Leave your comments in the section below about ultra-processed foods, and we'll see you in the next one.